What up, everybody? What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Thursday. It is a thirsty Thursday here this morning on the Dan Kasper Show on your radio dials 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com, where you can stream it up at the website there or get the link for the video stream. Otherwise, you got your Google and Alexa home devices, and of course the Sports Talk app. But hey, weekend's almost here. Starting to feel a little bit like fall with temps out there. Hopefully, you're all off to a fantastic start. Thank you for making us a part of your start on this Thirsty Thursday. Who you shouting out on this Thirsty Thursday? All right, hit us up with some texts on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line, 715-830-1912. You can hit me up on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Casper Sports. Who you want to give a shout out to for a Thirsty Thursday? All right, let's get a good list going. Let's get some good ones going here. All right, what's on the game plan here for this morning? Brewers did avoid getting swept by the Mets yesterday, but unfortunately they didn't get much help from some other teams. Phillies getting the win, Padres getting the win. So the Brewers remain 2.5 back from that last wild card spot. Last road trip of the season coming up here for the Brew Crew as they travel to Cincinnati for 4 games coming up here. So we'll take a look at the first game tonight. The schedule say over there's that looks like a 5:40 first pitch start for the Brew Crew tonight. Yep, Brandon Woodruff is going to get the start for tonight. That's kind of going TBD for Friday. Burns scheduled to start on Saturday, and another to be determined here for Sunday. So time's running out, though. Time is running out for the Brewers to make up some ground and get into this postseason. Now, perhaps this is the weekend where they can make things really interesting. I mean, they got to take care of their business, themselves first. But looking at this upcoming schedule here, you've got the Phillies starting a series with the Braves. The Braves kind of in a fight there for the NL East with the Mets. So expect the most out of the Braves in there. Brewers fans, probably big Braves fans here. Cardinals, Padres finish up today before the Padres take on the Rockies for that series. So, I mean, gotta at least take 3 out of 4 if you're the Brewers, don't you? I mean, at least 3 out of 4 against the Reds, and then just really kind of cross your fingers and pray to the altar of Joe Boo that can get some help, maybe specifically from like the Braves. Really hoping that the Braves take 3 out of 4 against the Phillies. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be really nice if they could get that done. But Willy Adames, I want to talk a little bit about Willy Adames today. So he had himself a game yesterday, and if you look at his last 31 games, Adames is batting .323 with 8 home runs and 28 RBIs. He has been a guy who has tried to pull the Greg Jennings on Madden, putting the team on his back right now, trying to will this team to the postseason. He's been playing some tremendous baseball in the last month or so. When you're looking at his season numbers and such, you're probably thinking, I'd like that batting average maybe to be up a little bit more or such. But when you look at the last 31 games, the last month or so, there's no denying that Willy Adames has been a nice bright spot, a big bright spot for this team. If we want to break it down a little bit further here, in his last 26 at-bats, he is batting .423 with 3 home runs. In his last 55 at-bats, he's hitting .382. Last 120 at-bats, .317. When you look at his slugging percentage in his last 26 at-bats, .923. So far this season, Willie Adames has 31 home runs, 95 RBIs. He is hitting 244, which is below his career batting average. His on base percentage is 310, which is below his average for his career, which is 326. His OPS, though, is higher this year than what his career numbers were. He's at a 796, career 781. The reason I want to talk a little bit about Willie Adames here. So the Brewers do control him for the next couple of years in terms of arbitration. But given that Willie Adames has been putting up some pretty darn solid offensive numbers this year, we know his arbitration number's going to go up next year. We know it's going to go up. In fact, I mean, would we say it's probably going to be maybe like a 10 million per year sort of thing? But I was kind of seeing some stuff on the good old socials talking about is Willie Adames worthy of a contract extension? And if you are the Brewers, do you try to lock up Willie Adames long term? Or do you take it almost by year sort of case here? I mean, do you want to see Willie Adames long term with the Brewers at shortstop? Because I feel like the Brewers in the last 10, 15 years, probably maybe even a little bit longer, have always kind of had a revolving door over there at shortstop. You know, if we go back to like JJ Hardy, then they traded JJ Hardy for Gomez, and they had like Betancourt for a little bit, Alex Gonzalez for a year, Gene Segura was over there. I mean, this just kind of been all over the place with shortstop. Would you like to see Willie Adames, the Brewers, maybe this offseason, kind of work on a long-term extension and keeping him in Milwaukee? Or do you take it by a year basis, and let's say that, I hate to say it, but let's say the Brewers maybe aren't competitive next year. Is he like worthy of a potential maybe attractive trade bait for a team? I don't know. Now, I know I'm kind of getting too far ahead here in the future and such, with the season still kind of going on, but it's kind of seeing some people talking a little bit about it on the socials. Do you sign up Willie Adames for the long term, or do you kind of like take it a year basis with the arbitration stuff? Let's make that a question of the day. Okay, I'll put that up on Twitter coming up here in a little bit in our upcoming break here. So, but think about that for a little bit. And maybe it's like you're trying to get them on the cheap and such. And there was actually an article on Fangraphs about Willie Adames, and is he a future $150 million player? So if you kind of want to look at those numbers a little bit. We'll kind of hit that article up and kind of give you some details of what Fangraphs is kind of making the case for or against at this point, but kind of some interesting stuff out there. Yeah, Kurt Hogg, who does cover the Brewers, tweeted out actually about 15 hours ago, some astute observers are saying the Brewers would be wise to extend him before that time where he would maybe, be a player worthy of $150 million. Interesting numbers when we look at some Brewers off shortstops too. Some interesting stuff here. We'll break it down. Also on the game plan, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Packers and the Buccaneers. So all this talk about Tom Brady getting personal days off on Wednesday. What did he do? He went and had practice yesterday. So, but that's not the big thing from yesterday. Let's take a look at this injury report from both squads yesterday. Just two Packers not participating in practice. Randall Cobb was out with due to an illness, according to the injury report. David Bakhtiari did not practice. Could be part of his only practicing 3 days a week sort of thing. Could that mean that practice today, practice Friday, and then, ramping it up for the Sunday game? I don't know. We'll see what happens today if he's out on the field or not. But looking at Tampa Bay, first off, Mike Evans, his suspension was upheld, meaning he's missing this game against Green Bay. When you look at the rest of the the group here, Chris Godwin, who had a hamstring injury in week 1, and it was kind of reported then that he would be out multiple weeks. He did not practice yesterday. Akeem Hicks, as we already know, is going to be out, did not practice. Julio Jones, dealing with a knee injury, he did not practice. Donovan Smith, their left tackle, something to kind of keep an eye on with his elbow, he did not practice. Tampa Bay's injury report, it's a little bit more fuller than Green Bay's here. So something to kind of keep an eye on here a little bit leading into this game on Sunday. And, we might have a better idea today on some of the statuses of these players, not only for like Bakhtiari in Green Bay, but maybe like a Donovan Smith with Tampa Bay, or maybe a Julio Jones with Tampa Bay and such. But one thing is for sure, we will not be seeing Mike Evans in this game. So does that... I think that's big, and I think it's going to be bigger too if Julio Jones and Chris Godwin don't play. I mean, that's like your top 3 receivers for Mr. Brady over there. And we kind of went through the numbers yesterday. They've been more of a running team to begin the season, these first couple of games here. Got to imagine they would lean on that just a little bit more. So it's interesting because I think you can maybe see a shift a little bit in terms of how Tampa Bay would play offense, but also maybe a little bit of a shift in terms of how the Packers might play defense in this thing. But today let's see what the injury report kind of looks like later today, and we'll see about Bakhtiari and such, whether he's going to be hitting the field today, and if that was just part of his schedule of having an off day every week, which will be the case throughout the rest of the season. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I want to talk a little Badgers and Buckeyes, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Saturday. Just how do you consider Wisconsin and Ohio State a big-time rivalry when it comes to football? Now, I know a lot of Badger fans, they don't care for Ohio State, but would you consider it a big-time rivalry? Now, it's not a big-time rivalry like Ohio State versus Michigan and such, but, if you're a Badger fan, if you are a diehard Badger fan, is Ohio State your biggest rivalry? Do you consider it a big-time rivalry? I mean, you look at the history between these two programs, I mean, it's pretty lopsided. Let's be real here. Ohio State, 61 wins. Wisconsin, 18. So Wisconsin's 18-61. Kind of forgot their last appearance. You have to go back to December 7th, 2019. It's been a little bit here. But I want to get a gauge of Badger fans and their feelings towards Ohio State. I feel like the majority don't like Ohio State, obviously. But would you consider them your biggest rival, or is this a big-time rival? Considering, let's face it, how lopsided it's kind of been, too. So we'll talk a little bit about that, talk a little Badgers and Buckeyes and all that good stuff. Got a receiver defer coming up, 7:40, 7:45 or such. We will not be catching up with our good buddy, Mr. Jake Boaks, Wisconsin Conservation Warden, because, well, he's busy this morning. So, but we'll catch up with him next week. So let's get this thing rolling. Let's get the opening drive started. Let's get the main course going here. I want to talk a little baseball to open up. Hey, you know what? Let's make it a smorgasbord. Just hit me up with some texts or some tweets or some Facebook messages on kind of the 3 main things that we got going on here. The Brewers and the Willy Adames thing. Would you want to see the Brewers lock up Willy Adames right now, sign him to an extension? Or do you go with the path of like, we're going to play the arbitration game and maybe we use him as some good trade bait? We'll hit that up coming up here in just a minute. We'll talk a little bit about Packers Bucks, and then the question I'm throwing out there to Badger fans, do you consider Ohio State a big-time rivalry? I know you don't like them, but would you consider them a big-time rival or maybe your main rival, considering how lopsided these games have been over the years? So let's get things rolling here this morning. We'll take our first break, and then coming up on the opening drive, we'll see where the texts lead us. We'll see where the conversation leads us. All right, we'll be back after these quick words. Thursday Night Football tonight. You got the Steelers versus the Browns, so don't forget to make your picks for the Pro Football Weekly Pick'em Challenge on our website, sportstalk1051.com. Just click on that Nation tab over there and make your weekly picks. And if you've forgotten to make your pick for the Survivor League as well, make sure you're doing that over there too. So, and while you're there, you can sign up to win some prizes. You can sign up to do some other cool stuff over there through the nation at Sports Talk So, all right. Good morning, Bob.
Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Oh boy.
They'll set ratings records, though.
I'll bet they will in Pittsburgh and Cleveland, but no place else.
I'll take that bet.
Ratings record? How is that
Well,
going to
ratings
set
as in they will still rate higher than like everything else.
Well, yeah, it's football, but who wants to watch Naked and Afraid or Survivor or some of those stupid shows?
Well, wow, you're already crabby this morning. Jeez Louise.
No, I mean, Pittsburgh, the biggest story they got is Trubisky going to stay their quarterback or not? And, it's they're not the quality teams, and Cleveland hasn't been a quality team for years, but Pittsburgh's still trying to figure out how to find somebody to take the ball instead of Big Ben, and I don't think they've found their answer yet.
So let me start off with asking you this. You're an alum of Wisconsin.
Yep.
When you were there at Wisconsin, what was the feeling like whenever you guys would play Ohio State?
How bad we're going to get beat.
So would you consider them a big-time rival or no. A little rival or no rival at all?
A little rival. They're in the Big Ten, so anybody in the Big Ten's a rival. Mm-hmm. But, Michigan and Ohio State is the rivalry. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, those are more our rivals than Ohio State.
Would you say
they don't play Ohio State every year?
Would you say Ohio State is the not necessarily a rival, but maybe the most disliked team? Because I feel like there's some Badger fans, I know a few of them, who really get amped up for a game against Ohio State. And is it just simply it's a David versus Goliath sort of thing?
I think that, but it's not so much Ohio State fans that I don't like. It's not the team is good. Let's face it. They recruit like Alabama. They get 5-star players. They got players that are on the third string that could start for most Big Ten teams. They've got a bounty of riches over there at Ohio State. Michigan to a certain extent as well. It's the Ohio State fans that act like like they were deemed by God to be winners in the Big Ten and around the country. It's they've got Ohio football and they recruit nationwide. Stroud came from California, their quarterback. They're one of those teams that can recruit and do recruit successfully nationwide. So, you're battling that when you can beat them. It's a wonderful upset. I mean, anytime Wisconsin beats Ohio State, it's an upset.
Mm-hmm.
When Wisconsin plays Iowa or Wisconsin plays Minnesota, those are rivalries because you really don't know how those games are going to end. It's going to depend on how the teams come out as far as how fired up they are, this, that, and the other thing. You're playing Ohio State and Michigan, and you're just hoping that Ohio State's going to make a lot of mistakes. Wisconsin's going to play over their head because we don't have the personnel Ohio State has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Never going to have. It's just the way it is.
It looks like just kind of judging on some of because we got quite a few texts coming on through here. Majority are saying it is Minnesota, Iowa. We do have a few people saying that their main rival is Ohio State's. Maybe more of a personal thing, but not necessarily a team thing. You know what I'm trying to get at there?
Yeah. And that's fine if people want to consider Ohio State a rival, but they're in the other division. They've been for how long? About the time you were born, it changed maybe, but for so long it was the Big Two and the Small Eight.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'd had no chance. I mean, I remember one year Indiana won the Big Ten. It was a fluke. It just doesn't happen all that often. And now with the recruiting getting so refined, it's really tough to get in there.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State's always going to be in the top 5 as far as recruiting classes.
Longest win streak for the Badgers against Ohio State. I got some of the numbers courtesy of uwbadgers.com. I'm surprised they want to put these numbers up there.
2,
3,
3, huh?
1913 to 1915.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't remember it. It's hard to play against a team like that. It's like it's like Gilmanton going against Eau Claire Menominee. You just don't have the same it's not apples to apples.
Mm-hmm. Longest losing streak. This one I think is in your wheelhouse.
Many.
21 games,
Yep.
1960 to 1980.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Right now the streak's lost 8 in a row.
Yep.
To Ohio State.
Yeah, and you can't consider, and to me, I don't consider that a rivalry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to come up with a comparison.
A rivalry is the Vikings and the Packers and the Bears.
Yeah, because even like the Bears, when I saw some people, like even there was a question last week I saw on another program, like, well, is Packers Bears still a rivalry because it's been so lopsided? That, yes, to me is still a rivalry, regardless of how lopsided it's been. I mean, you got to factor in the history. They do play each other every single year, a couple times there. There's still a dislike there. So the fact that was actually being thrown as a question out there, I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
At that point, I'm like, come on now. But this one, between Wisconsin and Ohio State, it's almost like trying to come up with an example. Like, I don't even know if I would throw like Packers Cowboys in the 90s as a comparison to that. I don't know. I'm trying to think of
not the Badgers and Ohio State,
no.
Packers and the Cowboys. That was
you almost played them every year too, or in the postseason.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I don't know what it almost have to be somebody from the AFC sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I want to.
Maybe there isn't a comparison.
I want to see a good game, but let's face it, Ohio State. Watching Wisconsin so far this year, and I've seen Ohio State play a little bit. I mean, their receivers are going our cornerbacks and safeties are, Torchio is a good, strong safety, but he can't cover the whole field, and our corners are young and small, and Ohio State's receivers are, they're 6'2" and they're fast. I mean, and they got 3 or 4 or 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Stroud is the inside track for the Heisman Trophy this year, they say, even though the guy from Alabama won it last year and he's back. So Ohio State's just loaded, and they always talk about the Wisconsin offensive line. Well, Ohio State is no shrinking violet when it comes to having big offensive linemen who end up in the NFL. So,
would it be similar to Brewers Dodgers?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a good day, the Brewers can, maybe win a series or extend a series. But let's face it, you're never going to bet your life savings on the Brewers beating the Dodgers.
Yeah.
The same thing about Ohio State and Wisconsin. I mean, I hate to say that because obviously I'm a Badger fan through and through, but reality is reality.
Mm-hmm. What was, not to age you or anything here, intern, that's not my point, but when you were in school there, what was like the main sport, or what was like the must watch? Was it still football?
Absolutely.
What was like the basketball programs kind of talked about? Is it still kind of the same as it is today?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Football was number one. Basketball was a non-entity almost. They played to take time up in the wintertime, and baseball was gone. So it was football was the sport in Madison.
Yeah, because your brother played, right?
Two brothers
played.
Yeah.
What the heck happened to you?
It was funny because you mentioned that, and my oldest brother is a big man. He played a lot of football. He drafted by the Lions and this, that, and the other thing. And but he was up here with me, and only a farmer in their way of saying things. I took him out to see some farms and visit one of my good friends on a farm, dairy farmer, and we got out of the car, and I introduced him. And of course, my brother's got my son says, I love to shake Uncle Bill's hand because it's like a bear claw. It's great. I mean, it's big. I mean, he's a big man, and he shook his hand and he looked at me and he said, what in the world happened? You must have got the dry quarter when you were growing up. They always related to the dairy cow. I must have got the dry quarter because the other two are big men that both played years. The youngest one played with Greg Bowling down there that era.
Yeah.
So, no, and so I've always watched it because a lot of kids from our school, Madison East, have played for the Badgers. Pat Richter, of course, being the most notable. But so I've always followed it, and basketball was always, until Bo Ryan really got there, they just never could find their way. I mean, you talk about Ohio State and Wisconsin in football, You go back and look at how many times Indiana beat Wisconsin in basketball when Bobby Knight was there. And it's interesting. A lot of people may not realize this. Bobby Knight was just within
close
inches of taking the Badger basketball job.
Yep.
And Bo Schembechler was also that close of taking the Badger football job.
Yep.
But then at the last minute, both of them went their separate ways to Indiana and Michigan, respectively. So, there was some dark years in major sports in Wisconsin. So I'll tell you, you better appreciate what's going on now. And that's why I say people are trying to throw Paul Chryst under the bus. Go back and look at history.
Okay.
You better be thankful that, because let's face it, Wisconsin is a tough school to get into as far as student athletes are concerned. It's one of the top two in the Big Ten as far as academic requirements. You just can't go out and say, oh, why don't we get 5-star athletes? Well, because you can't get some of them, a lot of them maybe into school. It's a challenge.
So let me ask this question then, because that was a hot button topic last week, was Paul Chryst, coaching and all that. Is the biggest issue, and I think I already know your answer, but I guess I'm asking it more for listeners out there. Would the biggest issue holding back the football program from taking that next step, is it the coaching or is it the requirements to get into school?
Oh, I think it's tradition as well.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are going to be, attracted to Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. These are the traditional powerhouses. Minnesota's coming on. Wisconsin has come on since Barry Alvarez. And, Nebraska, they came into the Big Ten thinking they were going to own it. Well, you've seen what happened in Nebraska. It's a tough environment in the Big Ten, and it's getting tougher all the time now with this conference realignment. Now, is it going to be better? I think bringing USC and UCLA in is going to be better. I think there's going to be more chance to recruit some of those kids from California and other major areas that will want to play in the Big Ten, because they're still going to get to play in California. They're going to get more national attention. Let's face it, how many times, it's the same thing we say in baseball. How many times you've seen Mike Trout play baseball, Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah.
Because of where they're at, it's hard for us to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think bringing USC and UCLA, and who knows who else might be coming in, I think it's going to be more of an attraction for these kids. Well, I can go to Wisconsin or I could go to Indiana, and I'm still going to be in California to play a couple games. I'm going to be on television. They're going to see me. I think it might be an advantage. But, it's hard to get over the major schools in the South. Recruiting is really tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's the coaching so much. I'd like to see, like everybody else, I'd like to see the offense opened up a whole lot. And, I think they need to open this offense because we've talked about it before. I don't think this offensive line at Wisconsin is very good. And we're really going to see on Saturday how good they are, because you can bet Ohio State has some pretty good defensive linemen. And is a team like Ohio State going to put 8-9 guys in the box? Are they going to need to put 8-9 guys in the box? And this might be the chance for our offensive wide receivers to really show up.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be an interesting test, and there are some different things that I'm looking for to see how good this team really is. That offensive line is going to be tested. That's for sure.
So let's ask the difficult question then. When it comes to actually getting into Wisconsin, how the hell did you get in?
I wasn't an athlete.
Well, I'm saying grade wise, how the hell did you get in?
My grades weren't that bad. And back then there wasn't. I don't think the competition was quite as tough back then when I went in. So you do all right on the ACT, and your high school grade point average is okay. You get in.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in and I got out. So that's maybe the biggest accomplishment. I not only got in, but I got out.
We might have to double check the transcripts and all that. So
Go ahead.
Just
I
saying.
even made the dean's list a few times.
Holy moly! What was that GPA minimum? Like a 3 or something? Or what was it?
I graduated over a 3. Yeah.
Oh, that a boy! Look at you.
So there you go.
Could you do it again right now?
No, heavens no. With all the new technology and all that stuff, wow. I don't. It'd be fun to go back to classes for a couple of weeks and just see how things. You used to sit. Well, you did it. Sat in lecture hall and take notes and this, that, and the other thing. Are they still doing that, or with laptops and tablets and all that stuff? I don't know how they're doing it. Are the lectures all online so you can go read those lectures? And but it'd take me a while to get used to the changes in the educational system because it's a lot different.
Or
I think it's a lot different.
Busting out their phones and just pressing record and recording the whole thing.
Yeah, that might be the way they do it too.
I wish I would have been able to do it instead of writing all those notebooks.
Yeah,
notes and that stuff. So, all right.
But that was fun when you didn't get the notes. Then you'd find a good-looking gal and say, "Hey, I missed class on Tuesday. Do you have the notes that I could get?" "Yeah, well, I'll meet you. We'll exchange the notes," and there you got yourself.
How many times did that work for you, though?
Oh, a few.
A few?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I was
I
was no campus Lothario, but I got along on campus all right. It was fun. College was fun.
Yeah, it's weird because like I was thinking about high school and college and all that. It's like you're so quick. I was like, okay, I want to go out and get to graduate. Now I wish I was back. You know what I mean? I wish I was teaching or still on campus and that sort of thing. So, all right, I tell you what, let's take a quick break, and then coming up next, I want to talk a little bit about Willie Adames and the Brewers. Our question of the day is: would you sign right now? As Fangraphs had an article about it, but would you sign Willie Adames to an extension now, considering some of the numbers he has been putting up as of late? We'll kind of break it down here, but you can vote on our Twitter page. Or if you don't have Twitter, you can send us a text at 715-830-1912. Brewers Chat coming up after these quick words. Brewers got the win yesterday, but they didn't get any help. Phillies won and Padres won, so the Brewers still remain 2.5 back. Their final road trip starts tonight against the Cincinnati Reds. Padres got one more game against the Cardinals before they take on the Rockies. But the Phillies also starting a 4-game series against the Braves. So Brewers, if they take care of their business, hopefully the Braves can win a few games here against the Phillies. But one player who had himself a game yesterday was Willie Adames, and there's kind of been some chatter. Do you or the Brewers, would they be wise to sign him to an extension now, maybe before that price tag goes up? Kurt Hogg, who covers the Brewers, had mentioned yesterday on Twitter, saying some astute observers are saying that the Brewers would be wise to extend Willie Adames before that time comes where he would be worth $150 million. He does have 2 more years of arbitration left. This year, he made just $4.6 million. You would expect that arbitration number to go up. But these are just some of the numbers that Willie Adames, and we're going to use Fangraphs here because they actually have an article about Willie Adames that was just posted the other day. Willie Adames, future $150 million man? Question mark. And they go through some of the numbers here. But for comparison's sakes, I'm not going to go through everything here. Let's take a look at wins above replacement, which is one of the bigger measurements that Major League Baseball or analytics people kind of use to determine a player's worth. Trey Turner, top shortstops by age and contract status and that sort of stuff. But Trey Turner has the highest WAR, and we're basing this since Willie Adames was traded. This is the timeline since Willie was traded from Tampa Bay to Milwaukee. Trey Turner has had the highest WAR at 10.7. Lindor has a 10.1. Carlos Correa 9.0. Dansby Swanson 8.7. Then you got Bo Bichette at an 8.1. Then it's Willie Adames at a 7.7, which is higher than Corey Seager, who's a year older. Corey Seager has a 6.7, and he signed a 10-year, $325 million contract. Some other contracts that you kind of want to look out there. Trevor Story signed a 6-year, $140 million contract. Look at the numbers. Willie Adames, you can make the case. Is he putting up better numbers? And that sort of thing. But and you look at these, last 120 at-bats for Willie Adames, he's hitting 317, 381 on base, 600 slugging. If you want to look at his last 26 at-bats, he's hitting 423 with a 923 slugging, 531. Since, August, he's been the one guy maybe trying to really push this team to the postseason here for the Brewers. So my question and our question of the day is, would you right now, you are David Stearns, not what we think David Stearns will do, but you are David Stearns or whoever's going to be the general manager for the Brewers. Would you work on an extension now for Willie Adames, maybe try to get it by the cheap, or do you play the arbitration card since he's under arbitration for a couple of years? You're going to have to pay more for him next year. But if things don't work out next year, you use him as a trade piece.
Sign him now.
Sign him now.
They don't. What they do in the offseason? What did we say we needed? We needed someone at first base and third base that could hit 30 home runs. You got Tellez at first base. What's he at? Is he at 30 home runs? Or?
Yep.
No. You get one at third base? No, not even close. But you got a shortstop that'll hit 30 home runs. So I think you've solved your problem right there. And if you could find, who knows, maybe in the offseason, you could find a bargain at third base, a guy that can hit 25, 30 home runs. Now you got 3 guys in your infield that can hit 30 home runs. Mm-hmm. I think that's a bonus. I'd be signing him.
Looking at, and we kind of mentioned it here, and again, Kurt Hogg, who covers the Brewers, actually has a graph up here, but I was kind of making a point before you got on. Like, it seems like it's kind of been a revolving door at shortstop ever since like J.J. Hardy there. And he actually put up a graphic, and, since the J.J. Hardy trade before the 2010 season, these are some of the players who have played shortstop for the Brewers. You got Betancourt, who he's got a list of 1 through 16 here based off of wins above replacement. Betancourt was the worst, -2. You got Alex Gonzalez for that 1 year, the veteran that I think played for almost every single team, it seemed like. You had Jonathan Scope actually is on here for a little bit. Remember Escobar, Alcides Escobar. Then you had Eric Sogard, the nerd. Remember, I know you know him very well. Craig Counsell, Orlando Arcia, Gene Segura, Jonathan Viaro is second, but Willie Adames is lapping all of them right now in terms of numbers and wins above replacements.
Yeah, I think you can't let him go. I mean, you just can't win without having some stability in your lineup. And I think Adames, you've already got Yelich, you got Adames, and I just think you got to sign Adames.
Yeah, and I think if you do it now, I mean, it's a risk anytime you try to do a contract early with somebody, right? It's a risk anytime you give a big contract to anybody. Are they going to live up to it?
Can you say Yelich?
Right, exactly. Freddie Peralta signed early, and I know he's kind of dealing with some injuries, but if he'd hit the open market, he's probably going to get a bigger payday.
Yeah.
But that both sides took a gamble, and right now it's working for the Brewers.
And they might say, well, let's see if he can do it again. So you wait maybe another year. But boy, I'll tell you, you wait another year and he does it again. Let's take a perfect example of this is Aaron Judge.
I was just going to say, yeah.
What is he going to sign for? Because the Yankees, I think I don't know what the Yankees offered him, but I know it was mucho dollars. But he said, no, I'm going to take a chance and gamble on myself, and I'm going to go without that contract for another year. Well, he's got a better chance of winning everybody talked about Goldschmidt all year, Goldschmidt from the Cardinals all year, Paul Goldschmidt. Judge has got a better chance of winning the Triple Crown than he does.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think he's in first place in all three categories right now in the American League. Batting average, and obviously home runs and RBIs, but batting average, he's right there as well. And Goldschmidt, I think Cardinals have been shut out the last 3 games, and Goldschmidt has not been playing very well. He's been kind of a slump here. So I think Aaron Judge. So that's what you get when you're not talking Aaron Judge kind of money with Adames, but you're talking for Milwaukee. Sooner or later, they gotta, and they did with Yelich. And what are they going to do? And I know Burns is coming up. Woodruff is going to be coming up. Peralta is going to be coming up. But, how, and I don't have the answer because I don't know what their budget is and what their philosophy is on all this.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I don't want to revisit Hader, but they've got to do something if they're gonna be competitive, or are they going to move up where they're a threat to win the World Series? Right now, with what they've done, their philosophy, they're not thinking about postseason, and it's disappointing to a lot of fans, including yours truly.
Yeah, I would be on board with signing up Willie Adames long term. Like we said, it's a risk, but it's a risk anytime. I'd rather have a team that's showing a little bit of risk and shelling out some money instead of not shelling out money and not keeping players.
And the thing is, it's you're going to make a big splash for one player, like the Angels did with Mike Trout, like the Texas Rangers did many years ago with A-Rod, that contract that was unheard of back then. Or are you going to build good money for good players and hopefully accumulate a whole bunch rather than just one that can't make it? I mean, Cabrera for Detroit. I mean, the list goes on and on about guys that made unbelievable money, but they couldn't build a team around them because they had no money left. You had just journeyman players, and I don't want to see the Brewers do that. Yelich is that's a big apple to take a bite out of as far as their salary cap is concerned. But the fans in Milwaukee are loyal. I mean, I was down there on Sunday, and their season is over, 2.5 out of the playoffs as far as the wild card. But I'm not holding my breath for that. But there were 36,000 people there on Sunday. That's a good crowd. And it was a beautiful day to be outside doing something else. But they were there. The fans follow the Milwaukee Brewers because they have been competitive and they've shown some interest in being competitive until, it's questionable with what they've done the second half of this season of trying to be in the playoff run.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what their philosophy is or what, and they don't advertise what their actual budget is and what they've got for players' salaries and things like that. It's big business, but these guys wouldn't own these teams if they weren't making money.
Mm-hmm.
And they're making money.
Yep. Looking at the 2023 payroll here for the Brewers, just to kind of give you an idea where they're at. Christian Yelich would be about 26 million, it looks like. But then there's only two other players that are really currently that are going to be under contract. Freddie Peralta at about 3.5, 3 point, depending on bonuses and all that, about 3.7 million. Aaron Ashby, remember he's signed that deal, 1.2 million. Otherwise, Colton Wong's got a club option for 10 million. That ain't coming back. Brad Boxberger, your boy, has got a club option for 3 million. That ain't coming back. Everybody else is like arbitration. That's it. So it's like this is going to be a weird offseason.
It really is. I didn't realize that. Really going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
But that's why, right there, Colton Wong's not coming back. He got Urias. And Colton Wong has been, I like Colton Wong, but boy, he can go into some stretches where he's just not contributing. And you can't have that if you're going to be a championship caliber ball club or considered for that. So, I agree with you. I don't think Colton Wong's coming back at $10 million. So there's some money right there that go to Adames.
Yeah. I remember the Lorenzo Cain stuff's coming off.
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
So, I mean, the majority of these guys are going to have arbitrations.
What about Burns and Woodruff? They're going to arbitration.
Yep.
Well, I hope they get a good number.
Yeah.
They deserve it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, those guys for sure, we know, unless they trade them, but they're going to get a big pay raise in arbitration like they do every year. Even Hunter Renfroe arbitration for. So it's like
he could get a good paycheck out of arbitration.
Yeah. So it's like, man, this is kind of interesting to see how this is all going to play out this offseason.
Yeah, it really is. And Burns, Woodruff, they're top line pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get a big contract, and they deserve a big contract in comparison to what other players do. And as far as the Brewers are concerned, while the emphasis on starting pitchers across baseball has been de-emphasized, Burns and Woodruff, because of the Brewer pitching staff, which have been, to me, very disappointing this year after Burns and Woodruff and Peralta being hurt. But, I mean, you look at some of these guys that are coming in there, and man, oh man, Sunday we were down, it was like batting practice for the Yankees.
Yeah.
You watch these guys, and their breaking balls are flat, and you throw a flat breaking ball in Major League Baseball, and you're not getting it back. And that's what happened. And so the Brewers are over a barrel. They cannot let Burns and Woodruff get away.
I agree.
They're going to have to pay them.
Yep. All right, we already got 1 hour in. Got a couple more to go. Coming up next hour, we'll get to a little receive or defer. We'll talk some green and gold, latest on the injury reports, all that good stuff. Plenty more coming after these few words. Second hour kicking off on this Thirsty Thursday. Don't forget, if you have any special shout outs you want to give anybody, you can hit us up with some texts, tweets, Facebook messages, all that good stuff. Who do you want to give a shout out to on this Thirsty Thursday? We're going to talk some green and gold. We'll talk some football and all that good stuff. We got a receiver defer coming up about 7:40 here this morning. So we'll get to that, but let's kick off with a couple of sports nuggets of the day. Let's go with 1927. Gene Tunney successfully defended his heavyweight boxing title against Jack Dempsey in the famous long count fight. 1934, the NHL approved a new rule that allowed the awarding of penalty shots. 1968, Cesar Tovar became the second Major League Baseball player to play all 9 positions in one game. 1969, Willie Mays hit his 600th career home run. In 2006, Barry Bonds tied Hank Aaron's National League home run record when he hit his 733rd. Those are just some of your sports notes.
In 1911, pitcher Cy Young, 44 years old, gained his 511th and final career victory on this date. He held a 1-0 shutout for the Boston Rustlers against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
So 44 years old, you said?
He was 44.
44, and he pitched a 1-0 shutout.
Yeah. 511th win. I mean, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah, I know we talk about records never being broken. I can't see anybody, a starting pitcher in this day and age, getting Cy Young wins
No,
over up there.
I don't think so. I don't know who. I don't think the next pitcher to get 300 victories is in a uniform right now.
Yeah, just kind of how everything's playing out. So, all right, that's a good one there. Before we get to some green and gold chat here, I think we should at least bring this up. But have you been kind of following along, maybe just kind of casually once in a while, hearing about this whole Brett Favre thing going on?
Yeah, it's getting all that money for
the welfare stuff,
and not showing up for speeches and still making the money, and this, that, and the other thing. I don't know if it's how close it is to a court situation or what it is.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the criticism from national shows and personalities out there is that it's not getting enough attention, that Favre isn't getting enough criticism. And something that I was trying to think about too is like, would Favre, I mean, given what's going on and all that sort of stuff, and his legacy here amongst Packers fans and that sort of thing, I mean, do you think it would ever get to a point where he's off that pedestal amongst Packers fans?
I don't know the scope of this whole thing, and until we really do know it, that's a hard question to answer. I think, he's still going to be held in high regard as far as his playing. Well, what he did on the field is different from all that sort of stuff, and it's is it a Pete Rose situation? Not really. Pete Rose was, what he did wrong still involved the game. What Favre is alleged to have done is not part of the game. That's transactions over and above football after, I believe, he was out of football. And so I don't think so. But I don't know the scope of the seriousness of what his accusations are.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, if you want to go back to the Jets thing, he's got to learn that, text messages don't go away.
No. He's not, well, let's face it, he's not the brightest bulb in the lamp.
Yeah.
Great football player, but I don't think you'd want him to take care of your 401k or anything like that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I if I don't know what it's going to be like. I think the latest I read was that they're still kind of going through, prosecutors are still kind of going through some of the things and that sort of stuff. And I don't know if there will be like federal charges or anything like that. But, I mean, I'll be kind of curious to see a reaction among Packer fans. Like, I agree with you. I think a lot of them are just going to focus on what he did on the field at Lambeau Field and that sort of thing. But I will be curious to know if there will be a change and some Packers fans and how they kind of view Favre. I mean, let's face it, Favre throughout his career, he has been just a wave of emotions for a lot of Packers fans, right? I mean, he comes
Yep.
in and he's had a great Packers tenure as a player. We loved him, and then the whole Minnesota thing, the whole retirement thing, up and down, and then you kind of add this thing to it now too. It's like, holy moly!
But I think it's to the point of distancing themselves or ourselves fans from Favre. This, he played football in Wisconsin, and then he went over to the Vikings, which didn't endear his legacy to Packer fans, obviously. But this is down in Mississippi, and there aren't a lot of Wisconsin people that have ties in any way, shape, or form to Mississippi. I mean, if you're going to go on vacation, you go to Gulf Shores or Florida, down that way. There's not a lot in Mississippi that ties Wisconsin people to Mississippi. So it's kind of like a different country, so to speak, almost as far as business. We don't do a lot of business with Mississippi on a personal or really a statewide basis.
So let me play devil's advocate here, because we've always kind of had this discussion, like, do Packers fans relate more to Favre or Rodgers? And the majority is always Favre, right? Because he was a hunting guy, just it seemed like he was a Wisconsin guy.
Yeah, he was
so
blue jean collar guy.
Right, exactly. So you're kind of like, that's a Mississippi thing, that's off the field thing. Yet a lot of people do have a problem with Aaron Rodgers for his off the field stuff. Is that a double standard?
Not as far as football fans are concerned. It's who I like, and that's what it is. If Aaron Rodgers had 2 or 3 more Super Bowls, his off-field thing wouldn't mean a hill of beans to Packer fans. Brett Favre got us to 2 Super Bowls, won 1, and he would just. They're 2 different. I mean, they're both great quarterbacks, but 2 different guys, completely different guys. And I just don't think, how this is going to end up with Brett Favre. I have no idea. I don't know the seriousness of it. I don't know how focused Mississippi and federal officials are on it and where it's going to go. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know. But I still think Brett Favre is going to be held in a high esteem by Packer fans.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they will still hold him into that high thing. I'll be curious to know if it gets to a point where I'm not going to pretend I'm a lawyer. I don't know how this all works. I don't know how it's what's all going on in that. But let's say it does get to that point where it's like prosecution and all that sort of stuff. I mean, then I would imagine, there's probably going to be more coverage on that thing.
Oh, there'll be coverage wall to wall if he ever has to go trial, with all the networks that we have now, sports related networks.
Social media, for crying out loud.
That's what I mean. Social media and the blogs and podcasts and everything else. It will get wall to wall attention in the sports media, and that it covers a lot. But how much would the mainstream media pick it up? It's not like problems Trump is going through right now. It's a different world, and and it's focused in Mississippi, and it'll get attention. There's no question about that. But how much remains to be seen, and how it's going to depend on, any of these are serious allegations and accusations. But what are the total dollars going to be, and is it going to be a vendetta by somebody against Brett Favre? I don't know. But I think it's going to get a lot of attention. You're right.
I'm kind of curious, like, how many Packers fans are paying attention to this, or are they like?
I don't think there's a lot to pay attention to right now. They've talked about the fact that he could be in serious trouble for all this stuff, getting paid for not showing up at appearances and welfare and all the other things that are possibly scams that he pulled off. But at this point,
I think maybe we're just kind of in that holding pattern to see what does happen.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're still acquiring evidence.
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of like, okay, know about it, but are we really going to I don't know, and I don't want to downplay or anything, but like, let's just wait and see the process play out is maybe the best way to put it.
Yeah, and it's going to be a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The legal system is slow in this country.
Right. So, but it's I've kind of noticed that trend in social media is just I mean, you can go down a dark hole on that thing, but there's more talk about like why isn't he, maybe getting more criticism right now and all that sort of stuff. So I was kind of curious how many like Packer fans are paying attention to it. And I don't think there's a whole lot. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but I
think
don't
they're
feel
aware of it,
Mhm.
but
following it deep. I don't think they're
yeah,
there.
why and how many of these cases are out there around the country? He's a sports figure. He's obviously a headline maker if he's going to be charged or anything like this. But there are other people out there that are being investigated for the same thing. Their names aren't known to the public like a Brett Favre is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, something to kind of keep an eye on, though, that's for sure. So, speaking of the Packers and that quick injury updates from practice yesterday, injury report. Packers injury report doesn't look as bad as what Tampa Bay has going on right now. Tampa Bay, first of all, is in case you missed it from late yesterday, and we mentioned it again earlier this morning. Mike Evans' suspension was upheld. He is going to miss this game against Green Bay. Chris Godwin's more than likely going to miss this game. Julio Jones, he's dinged up with a knee injury, so there's a very decent chance that Tom Brady's not going to have his. Are you okay in there? You're like
I got my cable, my headphone, about ready to hang myself.
I was like, what is going on over there?
I'm trying to unwind myself.
Julio Jones dinged up. So there's a really decent possibility that Tom Brady might be missing top 3 targets in this game. And his left tackle, Donovan Smith, who has that elbow injury, he did not participate in practice yesterday too. Now today and Friday are going to be the bigger indicators of like some game statuses and that sort of thing. But yesterday, Randall Cobb did not practice due to an illness. David Bakhtiari did not practice. It could just be part of that new game plan where they've got with him throughout the rest of the year. We'll know today. But go back before week 1, the talk was that this was the game to kind of focus on the return of one David Bakhtiari. But you look at, and we know Akeem Hicks is not playing for Tampa Bay. So I mean, Tampa Bay is really, really banged up in this game. And for me, if there was an opportunity for Green Bay to take advantage of that, you better do it now with all these injuries.
Their injuries on offense, their defense.
Well, Akeem Hicks is a big defensive player.
Well, there's no question about that. But, I mean, if we get Bakhtiari back, that would make a big difference. But their defense is solid. And Akeem Hicks will be a difference, that's for sure. But their defense is solid.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the offense will without those receivers, it will make a difference because, after the first game, it was kind of shaky in the defensive backfield. Last week it improved somewhat, and we'll see what kind of progress they make going forward. Now it's, it's this game is so. I mean, you look at Vikings after game 1, they're winning the Super Bowl. They go in Monday night and play Philadelphia, and they look like the Packers the week before. So this is a game of still human beings and emotions, and anything can happen.
Yep. I was kind of joking about it the other day, but apparently it is a story now too. So Mike Evans, the person that handed down his suspension, do you know who it was? John Runyon. His son plays for the Packers. So people are now saying it's a conspiracy theory, although the appeals officer was not John Runyon Jr., it was James Thrash, and he could have overturned it, but he didn't, which I think is getting lost in this whole thing. But
oh boy!
But now apparently people are saying there's a conspiracy theory going on with Mike Evans being suspended by John Runyon Jr.'s dad.
He's lucky it's only one game.
Yeah. I didn't see it live. I just saw the replays.
So I saw the replays too. I didn't see it live, but pretty cheap shot.
I think you got to go based off his history, the fact that he's had issues with Marshawn Lattimore too back in 2017.
No, I didn't know that.
There too. So, but no, we'll find out a little bit more in terms of health and that sort of stuff today. But I feel like, if all things kind of looking at there, I mean, got to take advantage of it. I would expect, not having those three dudes out there for Tom Brady changes up what Green Bay can do on defense a little bit. Leonard Fournette has been off to a good start this year. It's kind of weird to say that, through the first two games, they've been running the ball more. Aaron Rodgers has more passing yards than Tom Brady, and that includes that first game against Minnesota.
Wow. And I don't think this weekend is going to help Brady at all.
No, I think he's at like a 406 passing yards. In comparison to the number one passer in the league is Tua at over 700. Mentioned it yesterday. If you had Tua, Carson Wentz, and Joe Flacco as the three leading passers in terms of passing yards, you won a bingo card and go buy yourself a lottery ticket.
Yeah. Well, but the Buccaneers with Leonard Fournette running the ball and who else? They got another running. They've done well, I think, from what I've seen the highlights. I didn't see the whole game, but it seems like their running backs are doing pretty well this year.
So a little bit of a different philosophy after last year. Brady was like chucking the ball all over the place and leading the league in passing yards and that sort of thing. So, but I think it kind of changes. Are we at a point where we're saying make Tom Brady beat you with his arm in this game?
Yeah, I think you have to be because, like I said, you stop the running game and force him to throw to, I don't know who. Well, they signed
Cole Beasley.
That was, and I don't know if he's going to be activated or not, but he's one of those, the clones of an Edelman and some of those other little guys that play in the slot for a Brady team that catch a lot of balls, and whether he'll be activated and be able to do that this week, I don't know.
Yeah, just kind of looking at some offensive numbers. I mean, if you want to look at it, I know we kind of focused on the defensive numbers for Tampa Bay yesterday, but yeah, and it's only 2 games in, so I don't want anybody to way overreact, but they are in the bottom third in terms of total offensive yards. Green Bay's in just outside the top 10, actually. But again, this is just 2 games worth, so let's not overreact to everything here. But Tampa Bay is averaging about 303 yards per game offensively right now.
Yeah.
Offensively.
Because right now, Philadelphia is going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
According to everybody after Monday night.
Giants are making the postseason.
Giants are making the postseason. It's you got to go back to Aaron Rodgers. Relax, folks. Relax. It's 2 games in. We got 15 more to go.
It is interesting. He did make the comparisons to the start of this year compared to last year. We all focus on the Saints game from last year and in week 1 this year. But like he mentioned the other day, you look at last year, week 2, they beat a division opponent. Week 3, they weren't favored on the road in a big game against the 49ers. That's when Mason Crosby hit that long field goal. Kind of the same thing here too with Tampa Bay. Kind of an eerily, and then they went on that run like 7 in a row. I think they won that, in that stretch. And you look after Tampa Bay, there's New England, the Giants, the Jets, and Washington. You better win those games because then you got Buffalo at Buffalo day before Halloween.
Yeah, that's going to be wow.
Buffalo looks really good.
Buffalo looks real good. It's going to take somebody to turn their, again, 2 games in, but it's going to take somebody to turn their season around to beat Buffalo. They're tough.
Yeah, and you hate to say it, but an injury if it derails Buffalo.
And heaven forbid you don't want that to happen. But Allen is for real. I think San Diego is going to get better. Herbert is for real.
Who's San Diego?
Hard habits to break, that's for sure. But the Clippers, Los Angeles Chargers. Let me get it right here. But I think Herbert is going to make that team better as they go along. There's some real challenges out there. I think there's some teams that relax. This is going to be an interesting season all the way around. Kansas City, Mahomes is a magician back there. I mean, you watch him play, and some of the passes he's thrown already this year have been. What did he just do?
Yeah.
That kind of play. So there are a lot of great young quarterbacks out there, and you saw what what's his name for Cardinals did in that game to bring his team
Kyler
back.
Murray,
Yeah, Murray, and ran 100 yards for a 2-point conversion or something like that. So there's a lot of talent out there. It's just how much of it's going to remain healthy 17 games or 14, 15, 16 for most of the season to get them into the playoffs. Health is going to determine the winner.
Yeah, and again, it's just 2 games, but the AFC South has one team that has 1 win. That would be your Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
And they are leading the division.
Yep.
Because for whatever reason, the Colts can't do anything against Jacksonville.
Well, Matt Ryan, I think Matt Ryan was done 2 or 3 years ago.
Kansas City plays the Colts, so I mean, you're talking the Colts might start 0-3. You got the Raiders versus Tennessee, 2 teams 0-2 going against each other. I think the best game of the weekend is going to be Buffalo at Miami. Both 2-0 in the division, high flying offenses right now.
I was going to say they might pass between them for 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that and maybe probably the Green Bay Tampa Bay one, probably the best game.
Good football in Florida this weekend.
Dallas at the break up the Giants for Monday night too. Jimmy G against Russell Wilson again in Sunday Night Football.
Well, that'll be fun to watch.
But yeah, a lot of people already. There was an article in The Athletic already going after Nathaniel Hackett with the Denver Broncos.
Well, that was a silly decision he made that first game. And, when you're on national television, it just magnifies it that much more. And, you don't, you can't ask a guy to win a game for you from 64 yards out. Now, if you're in Denver, that's different with the elevation. But you're not in Denver. You're in Seattle. You can't ask him to, that water out there, if you've ever been out in Seattle, at night, that air gets heavy. You're surrounded by water, and the air gets that much heavier. I think that was I don't know what he was thinking about. You just paid $200 and some million for a quarterback, and you don't let him go for it on 4th and 5, and you bring a kicker in for 64 yards away. Come on, Nathaniel.
Mm-hmm. Well, even like the second game against the Texans, a lot of criticism about his game management and that. And it was the Ringer's Ben Solik said that Hackett isn't on the hot seat at September. The seats of first-year coaches don't get hot in September, no matter how reactionary the NFL media space becomes. But Hackett is on a totally unknown seat. He doesn't have Rodgers. He doesn't have ownership. And right now, he doesn't have anything on his resume that proves he can be an NFL coach. He has the rest of the season to change that. Or the argument for Hackett as anything more than a one-and-done coach will be impossible to make. And one of the articles, too, is that really throwing out the notion that the big reason and maybe the main reason why Hackett was hired in Denver was to lure one Aaron Charles Rodgers over there.
Yeah.
In Denver.
Oh, yeah. I heard a lot of that. That's for sure. But they got him.
If that's what you're doing, how to build a team, you got to look at the GM and all that, too.
That's not a solid theory. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But when they got Russell Wilson there, they're picked to win that division with Russell Wilson. He's got to coach better. I think he knows it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, already under a lot of pressure after the first 2 games.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't matter when you got Brian Dable who's 2-0 with the Giants, and Mike McDaniel, what he's doing with the Dolphins. It's putting all that kind of like, hey,
a lot of interesting stories out there after the first 2 weeks. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, tell you what, I want to do an extended version of Receiver Defer.
All right,
if you're up for that,
we can do it.
A little bit of a long edition. So we'll do this in 2 parts because we got to take a couple breaks yet. So we'll do our first break and then we'll do a 2-parter of Receive or Defer coming up in just a little bit. Bloodies with your buddies, featuring Silver Spring Foods, delicious non-GMO horseradish with just the right zing. Join myself and Mr. Alex Edwards of Wax 104.5 as we are searching for the most creative and still edible thing to put in a Bloody Mary. You could win a Silver Spring Foods Bloody Mary kit or 3 packs of award-winning Silver Spring Foods mustards. Our grand prize winner will receive a $100 gift card to Hy-Vee and a fire pit at the Thursday Fire Pit Finals on Thursday, September 29th. Enter now at around the 715. That's the number 715 in there. Around the 715.com, powered by Silver Spring Foods.
I wonder if there's any horseradish that's ever been GMO, genetically modified. I know you, because there are only about 10 or 12 crops that have ever been. You go to I know I've gone to flea markets and you got tomatoes, non-GMO tomatoes. There is no such thing as a GMO tomato. So, but anyway.
I've heard you talk about that before.
Yes, I have. I mean, it's one of those things where it's truth in advertising isn't always truthful.
Are you going to check out Warren's at all this?
No, not this weekend. No, the Cranberry Fest. No, Warren's Cranberry. It's the last full weekend in September every year.
Yep.
And it's interesting when you drive in the interstate, when you come up to Warren's, every town or every exit has got just a standard ramp to get off. You get to Warren's coming from the south or the east, heading west and going into Warren's. That's a long ramp, so they can get people off safely. But it is a big event, and Warren's really comes to life on this last full weekend in September.
Yeah, if you don't like people selling stuff in your yard, you're going to probably be out of town for the whole weekend. We go every year.
Yeah.
Do a little Christmas shopping and all that. And
there's
the town is literally shut down.
It's all a lot of those storefronts that are empty all year. People rent those and put their crafts and their stuff in there, and it's I've been there, I've been there a long time, but it's quite an event.
Yeah. We go every year.
Good for you.
Get up early to avoid the traffic because holy moly, there's a line waiting if you wait too long.
Find a place to park.
Yep. Big old fields there.
Yep.
But if you wait even till around noon, you'll see the line of cars just waiting to park.
Oh, yeah. It's a long one. Get up and get at them. Yep. Shank of the day, baby. Get up early.
I'm used to it, so there's no big deal for me.
No, I know it.
Do you have any receiver defers?
I do. Okay. And it goes back to some of the conversations we have. Now, I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about with the powers that be, receiver defer. Neither Craig Counsell or Paul Christ are on the hot seat.
I will receive that. I think fans, you're talking non-fans, right?
I'm talking about the powers that be that have a say in these guys' future.
Powers that be, I will receive. They're not on the hot seat.
I agree.
I would agree with that. Now, if you said fans, I would disagree with that.
That's right, yeah.
But no, I agree. They're not going anywhere. At least unless something really, 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 really bad happens.
Yeah,
but,
and I don't, I think the Brewer season, we've discussed it a lot, but I still don't think Counsell's on the hot seat.
I don't either.
Yeah,
I don't either. So, did you have another one?
No, not you.
Come with one. Man.
Well, you said you got an extended one, so I figured you must have 15 or 20 this morning. So I didn't want to rain on your parade.
Receive or defer. We're going to go back to the Badgers in Ohio State. By the way, what was you? Before I get to that, you had kind of an epic Wisconsin weekend because went to the Badger game and then you went to a Brewers game. The only thing missing was going to a Packer game Sunday night.
I know it. So Aaron Judge hit 58 and 59.
Yeah.
And he doesn't hit pop flies that barely cover the fence.
What was the reaction like from the Brewers crowd when he did it? Was there some cheers or anything?
You bet. Fans are supporting him to hit those home, because I think most fans figure the Brewers season is over. Well, there were 36,000 people there, and he got obviously he wasn't a hometown cheer, but he got a lot of support from, because he's a nice kid and he's related to one of the people that work here.
Yep.
So
on his wife's side, I believe.
Yeah, but a nice kid, and he's not a pouter, he's not a complainer.
That was something I heard from David Cohn yesterday on the Dan Patrick Show when he was talking about him. He said, you know, a lot of people talk about the respect he has. You know, like he'll hit his home run and just put his head down and run the bases and all that stuff. Like he said, a lot of the people around the league talk about just like his how much they respect him because how he plays the game.
Yep, exactly. And I think he got that respect in Milwaukee. I clapped for him. I cheered for him. I think he's the kind of guy you want breaking records because he respects the game. He respects the people he plays with and against. He respects the crowds. He's real.
Yeah. Speaking of that respect thing too, there was an article the other day by Adam McCauley on Brewers.com when Wainwright and Molina broke the record for pitcher and catcher, and Yelich took the first strike there, and they didn't know that he was going to do that. And you could see Molina look up to him and say thank you, but Wainwright went out of his way to say the one thing I'll remember from that moment is the sportsmanship from Christian Yelich. Because he could have teed off on that first pitch, and like Wainwright said, if it was a home run, do you think I want that ball back or anything like that?
Exactly.
But Wainwright was just so complimentary of Christian Yelich from there. It was a good article.
And I think for the most part, these guys do respect their peers, and there are some cheap shot artists.
Yep.
I think mainly and not so much in baseball, but you watch these guys and they'll get on base and Yelich and Rizzo playing first base for the Yankees. And they talk and laugh. Adames, these guys like each other, respect each other. They'll play hard to beat you. They'll do what they have to beat you.
Yep.
But they respect the ability, the records that these guys set. Molina and Wainwright, and Aaron Judge going after what he's done. So
yep.
That's still baseball is they say golf is a gentleman's game, but baseball is a very competitive game, obviously. But I think for the most part, it's full of good guys.
So back to my receiver deferred with the Badgers. So the line currently is at 18.5. The spread.
Too low.
Okay, I was going to say, do receiver deferred to the Badgers cover the spread?
No.
You don't think they cover?
Not from watching them and watching what I've seen for Ohio State. I hope I'm dead wrong, but I think Ohio State is too fast on both sides of the ball.
Ohio State will win by more than 19 or 19 or more.
Yeah, I think they'll win by more than 3 touchdowns. Okay. I hate to say that, but and I hope I'm dead wrong, but watching the Badgers and watching the little bit of Ohio State that I've seen, they're talking about this Nurbig Smith being back as one of the receivers and the game breaker, and I don't know if Wisconsin can hold on to the ball long enough. I'm worried about the offensive line. I'm worried about our offensive receivers. Can they get open? And are they going to require more coverage than just one-on-one with the corners? Because if their safeties don't have to worry about pass coverage, look out, Mertz. They're going to be on your back because they're going to blitz, and it's going to be interesting. Bobby Ingram, the offensive coordinator for the Badgers, better come up with some new philosophies or new ways to approach this game, because Ohio State looks to me, the games I've seen, and only part of a couple of games, they're for real.
Yeah, I think yesterday I might have mentioned I think Wisconsin covered. I'm changing that. I don't have a good feeling about this. I hope I'm wrong, like you said, but yeah. I don't have a good feeling about this. So
no, they haven't showed to me in 3 games. New Mexico State wasn't much competition. Let's face it. Washington State was a decent team, but you've got to beat them by 2 touchdowns, and they lost the game straight up.
If they beat Washington State and that line was still 18.5, do you think Badgers cover?
It might, but
okay.
If Washington State can expose them both offensively and defensively and hold them down, Ohio State would beat Washington State by 4 or 5 touchdowns easy. And Washington State, they were 2-0 after that game. I'll give them that, but I don't see where they're going to, be much of a factor in the Pac-12.
Receive or defer. Willie Adames will get a contract from the Brewers before one of the pitchers of either Corbin Burns or Brandon Woodruff.
I'm going to say receive, because I think that contract and I say that because I think that contract will be easier to work out
Mm-hmm.
than a contract for a guy that was a Cy Young Award winner a year ago, and Woodruff, who has shown that he's a top starter as well. So I'm going to receive that Adamas will get a contract first.
I'm going to receive that too. I agree with all the points that you mentioned. I mean, I think if Corbin Burns was a free agent right now, you're talking about a guy that could potentially get the 300 million mark.
Yeah, I agree with you.
With some of the
I
pitching
agree with you.
Numbers out there. So I can't see the Brewers able to afford either one of those guys. I hate to say it, and that's what is the disappointing part for me is that they were getting them by so cheap, and we might not even make the postseason this year.
Nope, exactly. So. And and that's not Corbin Burns' fault.
No. Yeah, you're right. Man. That's where I'm really curious to see how this offseason is going to go with so many guys arbitration, not a lot of dudes under contract. Do they try to do the whole 1 year thing like they did in 2011?
I don't know what they're going to do. Receiver to first, Stearns is on the hot seat.
Who are we doing, fan or decision maker?
Well, decision makers, and I'm going back to the fact when they traded Hader, what the owner said, Atanasio, they made the trade.
Yeah, you'll have to ask David. You have to ask David.
Yeah. So,
I'll defer.
So will I. I don't think he's on the hot seat either. I
feel like now, though,
I'd like to talk to him over a beer and just with nobody else listening and just a couple of guys talking baseball and say, what did you get out of that trade, or why did you jump at that trade? I'd love to hear, because I've never heard an explanation of that that's more than just media talk.
I will, with the Stearns thing, I was going to say is I just wonder, a few months ago with the whole rumors about him going to the Mets, and I mean, the majority of Brewers fans didn't want him to leave. We want to hold on to this guy.
Well, I think he's done a nice job.
But has that changed now for some Brewers fans? Like, yeah, go ahead, go to the Mets.
Oh, I'm sure it has. Just like Badger fans want to fire Paul Christ. Fans are fans. It's short for fanatic, and that's what fans are.
Mm-hmm.
They're fanatical about their team. Wisconsin should be the best football team in the country. Well, I wish they were.
Mm-hmm.
But reality is reality.
Right. So, receive or defer this Packers-Bucks game. If you are the Packers defense, you're Joe Barry, you're making Tom Brady beat you.
Absolutely. I'm going after Brady,
You're going to focus on stopping the run, and you're going to make him try to throw the football on you.
Absolutely. Yep. Take Fournette out of the game early, and I don't know who their second running back is, but take them both out of the game early and put that pressure on Tom Brady. Because I think our defensive backs, throw out that Minnesota game, I think that's an aberration. I think our defensive backs are pretty good as a unit. And I think they can make Tom Brady's life pretty miserable. And we're not going to have a world beater as far as a pass rush is concerned. But if, Preston Smith and
Rashawn
Gary, thank you, can put pressure on him, I think they can make it a long day for him. I think this defensive scheme is going to be really important.
Yeah, just kind of looking at some of the rushing, the rushing numbers here. So Leonard Fournette is leading the Bucks in rushing yards, 192 in 2 games. One player, their second leading rusher, has 17 yards rushing. That's Julio Jones.
Oh boy.
White is their backup running back, but he's only ran the ball 8 times for 15 yards. So yeah, there's your little nugget. Julio Jones is the second leading rusher for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers through 2 games so far. So yeah, Leonard Fournette. It's Leonard Fournette.
That's what I say. If you stop Leonard Fournette, or at least contain him, 50, 60 yards for the game, Tom Brady's got to beat you. And I don't know if he has he's proven he can win in a lot of different ways, but at 45, I don't know, because he's obviously not going to, he's not going to be mistaken for Pat Mahomes back there running around.
Mm-hmm.
So he's, pretty much a statue back there. And, if Gary and Preston Smith and maybe some of these other guys can sneak through, I think it could make for a long day for for Brady, but Brady's Brady. He can win in a lot of different ways, as he's proven.
You want some interesting numbers here between the two quarterbacks for the first two games of the season? So, at least at the beginning, Tom Brady, you'd have taken the Bucks wide receiving core over Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Look at these numbers, though. So, Aaron Rodgers this year, 429 passing yards. Tom Brady, 402. They both have 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Here's the interesting thing for me: completion percentage. Rodgers is just a tick under 70%, 69.5. Tom Brady is below 60%, 59%.
Yeah, that's low for him.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, it's just 2 games. I understand that. But
Brady's got, until this game, Brady's had a pretty good receiving core.
Yeah.
Compared to what Aaron Rodgers has had.
For all the talk about Aaron doesn't have weapons and all that sort of stuff, yet, overreaction on 2 games. But still, it's like,
Well, we all wish the receiving core was a little more accomplished. Now, by the end of the year, maybe they are.
Mhm.
But you got to get to the end of the year. You're not there yet. You're only in game 3. And I think these guys are going to come on. I think they're going to get better. I think Rodgers is going to make them better. And they know that if they want to catch passes from Rodgers, they better work hard and do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's enough incentive there to make them stand up and play the game the way it's supposed to be played, where we're used to seeing it.
Now, I will say this too with Brady, his 2 games have been against Dallas and New Orleans, who's got a pretty good defense, whereas Green Bay was Minnesota and Chicago last week. So, I mean, a little bit there too, if you want to factor that into it. But no, and then, as we were talking about defensive numbers, I mean, Tampa Bay leads the league in sacks and top 5 in turnovers. So, watch out for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, Akeem Hicks being gone, that will help. But, one guy doesn't make a defense.
Mm-hmm.
He can be a leader of a defense, but he doesn't make the defense.
Mm-hmm. I think, actually, I'll do this next hour. We'll play a clip from Aaron and his press availability from yesterday, and he talked about what perhaps the game plan should be for this game offensively. So I'll get to that next hour because we got to take a quick break, and then we'll continue a little receiver defer as we close out the second hour already on this Thirsty Thursday. We'll get to some shout outs. Who do you want to shout out on this Thirsty Thursday? Hit us up with a text, a tweet, or a Facebook. We'll be back after these few words. You find that perfect deer rifle as well, because they did that for me too. Welcome to hunting season, everyone. Make sure you're prepared for this season with the help from Tilden Gun. You can start off by visiting Tilden Gun's website at tildengun.com, where you can check out their amazing selection and even better prices. Nobody can match what Tilden Gun can provide for you. Tilden Gun is located at 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. For many of us, our summer road trips are in the books, and hopefully it was a great year for some adventures for you. Now we're hitting the roads, taking our kids to school, ball practice, events, and games. So making sure your vehicle is still operating at its best is still crucial. All right, we only got a few minutes to the top. Reminder though, we will not be having our little outdoor tidbit with Mr. Jake Bulks today. He's at a meeting, so not able to join us. But if you had any luck with the opening of bow season, don't forget to upload those pictures to our trophy board.
Seen any big ones yet?
I was not able to go.
You didn't know.
I was at a work conference this last weekend. So
What work?
our work is our annual conference.
Really?
Yeah. Tells you how much they value you, probably, man.
Boy, am I glad. It's enough in the week. I'm not going to give them my weekend, too.
Tell me, man.
Oh, boy. But anybody sent any big pictures in a big one?
No, I have not seen anything yet.
I haven't seen anything either.
That's the thing, is like I haven't really seen anything on social media.
No, usually Facebook's full of pictures of bucks that people have gotten. I haven't seen much yet.
Yeah, so if you do have them, don't be afraid. Send them, upload them to our trophy board.
Yeah, brag a little bit. That's good stuff.
Exactly. SportsTalk1051.com. Just click on that outdoors.
I wonder if anybody shot that buck that jumped over my car here a week or two ago.
He's probably waiting for you to get up
Oh,
there.
man. I'm not going near that boy.
All right. Did you have any more receiver deferred? You're wiped clean.
Well,
huh?
I only got a couple because you said you had an extended version today.
Receiver defer. The Philadelphia Eagles, the best team right now in the NFC.
I'll receive that. They look good against the Vikings, and the Vikings look good against the Packers. So I'm figuring the Vikings aren't all as bad as they showed against Philadelphia. I think they just got frustrated and they didn't know what to do.
Only 3 teams undefeated in the NFC right now: Tampa Bay, Philly, and those New York Giants.
Yeah,
only
those
3.
Giants. Yep.
There's only 3 in the AFC that are undefeated right now. 2 that are highly suspected that they would be: Buffalo and Kansas City, and then Miami.
Yep. Now, what'd you say? The Giants play on TV next Monday night?
Well, they play this weekend against the Cowboys Monday night.
Okay.
So
Monday night
football.
So Eli Manning will have fun on his, he and his brother Peyton on their
Monday
night edition.
Aikman with his Cowboys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, him and Joe have called a few Giants-Cowboys games over the years.
Oh, yes.
So, still kind of weird for me. I don't know why. It's just hearing Buck and Aikman on Monday Night Football. I just haven't really processed that yet, I don't think.
There have been so many guys doing so many different games that it doesn't, I mean, I never associate anybody with anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know Buck and Aikman were always Fox's number 1 team, but if they were there, fine. If they weren't, it didn't bother me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit one too is still kind of weird for me on Thursday. I know you haven't been able to get it on your TV antennas for Amazon Prime.
No,
so
I'm gonna have to get a bigger antenna or taller rabbit ears.
Yeah,
something, because that doesn't come in very well.
No, so you climb up there and you figure something out.
I'll get her done.
Change it around.
That's right.
You'll have to for that Packers one in November. You might have to go out to the watering holes. And
possible.
Stay up late on a Thursday night and watch it.
I was gonna. My son is home from the Army, and of course he's got all that stuff. He says, "Well, we'll hook up Hulu." I said, "But you gotta have a smart TV or some darn thing." And I said, "A smart TV or a smart operator," and I haven't got either one of them, so I didn't get to watch it.
Get a Roku stick.
Well, that might be what I get next.
We'll teach you. We'll help you.
I got a yardstick. Is that?
You try putting that in your TV, see what happens. All right, 2 in, 1 more to go. We're going to hear from quarterback number 1 after these quick words. Final hour kicking off on this thirsty Thursday, first day of fall. Feels like it out there. It's my favorite time of year, man.
It is gorgeous out there. Everybody,
Yep.
cows love it.
I love the
Animals
hoodie
love it.
weather, a little light jacket sort of
Yep.
thing. I'm loving it. Loving it. A couple months from now, I won't be, or 3 months from now, I won't be when it's negative 20. So,
No,
But-
there's a downside, but like I've said to so many people, you want to live someplace. This is not a bad place to live because you can leave and come back. You don't have to battle hurricanes and tornadoes. We have tornadoes through here. I'll grant you that, but not the regularity that they get them through Kansas and then Oklahoma and that part, and earthquakes in Oklahoma. People don't know Oklahoma has more earthquakes than any other state.
Yeah.
I mean, and the weather, and out west, you go out west and it's drought. They don't have water. California, Lake Mead out there to feed the Colorado River. There's nothing there. I mean, it's
They're
just
finding bodies in there now, man.
Yeah, I know it. That's what I
like-
mean. This is not a bad place to live. Now, if you want to have leave for the winter for a while, 2, 3, 4 months, that's fine. But you come back here in the summertime. I was driving around the other day and I'm thinking I saw license plates from Mississippi and Georgia. And I'm thinking, those people got to think they're in heaven. It's about 80 degrees. Humidity's not bad, little breeze, and no bugs to speak of. And they go back down there and just melt.
Yep, exactly.
Good place to be around here.
Even Aaron kind of commented about that yesterday, about the weather in Green Bay right now is the best type of weather. So speaking of Aaron, let's hear from him a little bit here during his press availability at his locker, talking a little bit about the trend in defenses and how defenses are playing the Packers and kind of his thoughts on taking too many hits already at the beginning part of the season, and maybe what are some ways to combat that. Audio courtesy from Packers.com. Here's Aaron Rodgers.
With the way Aaron Jones ran last week, do you anticipate, maybe not this week, but at some point that defenses are really going to stack the box to try to make you guys do something else?
I hope so. Yeah, I'd love to see some one-high stuff. I mean, the league has been so much too high the last few years. I'd love to see some one-high. So that'd be great.
I was going to ask you that. Have you seen, because the passing has been so good for so long, have you seen much of that ever? Of teams daring you to actually throw the football?
There's a few times, I think, over the years. 15 and 18, I feel like were a couple of years where we saw a little bit more one-high. It was nice when the Seattle trend was going on and 6 or 7 teams were on that defense because that's all one high. It's very, very little too high. But now it's this other style of defense from the Rams, and it's a lot of too high. So you're seeing the run game come back. The fullback position might make a resurgence, who's going to be the next John Kuhn of the world? We'll see. But yeah, there's been a lot more too high the last few years.
Is Jones the type of back at this stage in his career where even if you get that one high look and they load the box, that you need to make sure he's getting his carries, even if it's not the ideal look?
Well, one high shouldn't take you out of run the football. It's just there's certain plays where you might have to leave a corner, or leave the backside guy on the unblocked, and that's just part of it. So. Look, it doesn't stop us from running the football. It just changes some of the schematics, either to the front side or the back side of the run if we're going to leave the backside in on an outside zone or the front side corner, more of an inside run. So it doesn't really change a whole lot, but, it would assume some more one-on-one stuff outside.
Aaron, I know there's a lot of things that go into it, whether it's the offensive line play, guys getting open, you holding the ball longer than maybe you should, but do you think you've taken too many hits in the first 2 games, and what are you going to do about it if you think that's the case?
I've taken a few hits. Yeah, I think the first game, way too many hits. Last week, I don't know how many of those were avoidable. Would not like that to be the standard. So we got to get open on time. Ball's got to come out on time, and hopefully we can clean some of that stuff up. I mean, I'm assuming I might take some shots this week. They're blitzing defense. There'll be some opportunities for some hot adjustments, some side adjustments. Could be some free runners, but I got to deal the ball on time this week and make sure not letting them get some momentum with sacks.
and if my memory is wrong on this, but like in 18, there seemed to be a lot of times where you didn't have anywhere to go with the ball. How much of a component is that this time? And is there anything, even though it was different offenses, that you can take from that time? Because it doesn't seem like the last 3 years there's been a lot of instances.
That was as many throwaways as I think I've ever had in my career that year in 18. I mean, it was, I think, over 70 as far as the numbers that we counted up. Wouldn't, like to be at that anywhere near that number. Don't think we're going to with this offense. It's just we have to clean the timing up, on some of the route concepts, so we're getting open at the right time. And then I'm just trusting some of the windows and throwing it through those windows.
It's just a little bit from Aaron Rodgers yesterday at his locker. Again, audio courtesy, Packers.com.
I'm sitting here listening to that, and I'm thinking, I'm a typical fan, played the game high school, never played past high school, but, and you watch it and this and but, some of the subtle things he said in there, you've got to be involved in the game to understand really what he's talking about and how it influences the way the game is called. And the average fan thinks they understand all that, but believe me, you don't.
Mm-hmm. Even like they're to the details of what they call their plays and how they rattle that off and all that. I'm like, gosh, I don't know how you can do that.
Because we're in high school, TD Wright or 826 type of things,
Power I-36.
Yeah. And now you listen to these guys call these plays, and I'm thinking, holy man, for a rookie to come in, well, they can do it in college too. But it's a whole lot different, that's for sure. Because those plays, the name of the plays is telling just about every guy what you're supposed to be doing. And it's quite a language, so to speak, that they have in college and pro football.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. One of the parts where he kind of mentioned a couple times is that, he's the route timing on everything, because the question was about him holding the ball too long and that sort of stuff. And, he talks about the route timing and, trusting those windows and all that sort of stuff. So it's like easier for us to look at these screens from overhead, right? To say, well, that guy's open. But if the play is designed to be at a certain spot at a certain time, we don't factor that stuff into it. Where that's a big part of that whole thing.
Oh, yeah, that's what I say. The average fan doesn't understand the subtleties and all the intricacies of play calling. And to make a slight adjustment, we think, well, they made a slight adjustment. They've put in, the back to do this or that. That's a major adjustment as far as play calling is concerned. But, it's really intricate. And to listen to these guys talk like that, you listen to it and think, now, what exactly does he mean by that? It's a different language.
Let me ask you something about David Bakhtiari. So I remember in 2011, that year they went 15-1, and I was at the Giants game where they lost in the postseason there. But I remember in that game, Chad Clifton was still left tackle. However, they were rotating him and Marshall Newhouse because Chad Clifton was, at the end of his career getting banged up and all that sort of stuff. And they had a rotation going on over there. What do you think, or do you think that's – because I keep thinking, I'm like, is that going to be David Bakhtiari now with him and Yash? If he's cleared to go. They have already cut down his practice time to where he's only going to be practicing a couple times a week throughout the season. Even when he's on the field, they said that's the plan going forward. There's a part of me that's wondering, are we going to see something similar to that in a regular season? And if so, is that necessarily a good thing?
Well, I don't think you'll see David Bakhtiari play a whole game anymore. I just don't think it's possible. If he's had this much trouble, it's been 2 years. For this knee injury. You talk to other people who've had this injury and, they were 11, 12, 13 months out. They were playing back to full speed. And if this is 2 years and he still hasn't played a game yet, I don't think you'll ever see him playing a full season or playing a full game. He won't ever take every offensive snap. That's just not going to happen. I think a rotation is just inevitable. And again, that's going to change the play calling somewhat because Bakhtiari has been considered the best left tackle in football. Now, whether he still can be coming back from this injury, I don't know. I hope so. I'm hoping this 2 years off will mean he can play 75, 80% of the plays. But I don't know if it's going to be that much or not. But I just can't see him playing every offensive down. I just don't think he can hold up.
So, I mean, ideally, I don't think any of us would want to see a rotation at left tackle. I mean, if you got a
No.
guy out there, you'd like that guy to continue to be out there. There's part of me now that I'm just kind of wondering if we're going to see that this year. I
Well,
think we'll see Bakhtiari in the field at some point, but
Oh, I
I don't
think
know
we
if it'll be
will.
a full, like you said, a full game.
No, I don't think there's any way he's going to play 100% of the offensive snaps.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that knee will hold up. Now, maybe with 2 years and the braces they can put on it, it's coming back and it's going to be strong. Maybe that's what they're waiting for, is to not put him out there at 75 or 80% and risk getting him hurt, because these defensive ends are fast, they're big, they're strong, they're versatile, and if he can't move, he can't block these guys, because these guys can really put some moves on. And I'm hoping that with all the rest he's had in recuperation, that knee is going to, it's never going to be what it was, obviously, but I'm hoping that he can take 80% of the snaps anyway.
So I'm going to throw this out there, and it's very just, there's no reasoning behind it. There's no basis behind it. It could be kind of short-minded here, but, when you play left tackle, you have to be able to kick out, right, and handle those speed rushers out there. Do you move them to guard?
I don't know, because the guards,
There's some big boys up there that you have to go up against.
You
and,
bet.
yeah.
And you got crackback blocks, you got pulling plays, you got
Mhm.
I don't know if he's would be agile enough anymore to do it.
Yeah.
I really don't.
What was it?
Would you put him at right tackle?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either, but if he can't adjust at left tackle anymore, could he be a usable right tackle? I don't know what they're thinking. I know they want him to be back at left tackle, and I want him back at left tackle too. But reality being what it is, that's when we talk to the doc again. What does it tell him about Dr. Crow? What does it tell him about a guy being out 2 years basically with that injury? There's something going on there.
Yeah, I think we've talked about
I
it
know you
every
have.
day.
I know you have.
And he kind of talked about another potential procedure that maybe he could have, but if he was going to have it this year, he'd be done. It's almost like,
and if he's done this year, he's going to retire.
Yeah, it's like you're talking, and he said the hard part, I'm paraphrasing this way down, but like taking a bone out of a cadaver and replacing everything. I mean, you have to find the right cadaver that would match it up. I mean, it's it's not even. You sending me pictures, and I'm like, oh no, don't tell me that's done.
No. I think it is what it is with Bakhtiari. He either comes back from this injury and plays, or he tries to play and it doesn't work, and his career is over.
If he is not on the practice field today, he had to have suffered another setback. I will say that. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, if he's not practicing today, I don't have faith that because I know they've been talking about since before the season started, this was the game to kind of keep an eye on, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm starting to lose a little bit more confidence.
Yeah, I am too. And a big man like that, that's a tough injury. You got a major joint there to come back from, and if he is having more problems than we're hearing about in the media, and they're not releasing it, like you said, if he's not on the practice field today and ready to go, when is he going to be ready to go?
Yeah, and I hope
they're tying up a roster spot.
Yeah, and I hope nobody is, criticizing Bakhtiari or putting blame. I know Dr. Crow has talked about this, and we've seen examples. Everybody's body heals differently or reacts differently. Not everybody's Adrian Peterson, who tears it the second week of the season, comes back and wins MVP.
Yeah.
The following year. Charles Godwin tore his ACL in week 15. He played in the first game, but now he's got a hamstring injury. Elton Jenkins got back in 10 months. Bobby Tunyon's already back. Everybody's
Bobby
different.
Tunyon was out for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, he tore his ACL in the middle of last year too. So,
Yeah.
but he's back now.
Yeah.
But I hope nobody's like really criticizing Bakhtiari or anything like that.
No, I
Everybody's
would hope not.
body heals differently. And that's why, when we have these timelines, I think there's always going to be those. That's why they're just timelines and they're not, like dead set sort of things that guy's going to be back or that player's going to be back. So,
Well, and
It's just-
Bakhtiari doesn't have to worry. As good as he is, he can be on his own timeline. I mean, some of these other guys like Tunyon, I got to get it back on the field. You might rush it a little bit, but Bakhtiari's not going to rush it, and I don't think they're going to rush him back.
mm-hmm.
They're going to wish and hope and pray that he can come back and be relatively close to his all-pro form. But will he be? I don't know. It's like you said, all the time it's taken for him to get back, and he's still not really back yet because he hasn't played, so he's not back. And if he's not on the practice field today, then you really got to start thinking, like you said.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, let's take a quick break. And then we'll get back to a little bit more baseball talk here, kind of give you an update where everything stands and with the playoff chase and all that sort of stuff. And I'll try not to choke here anymore either. So quick break, and we'll be back after these few words. Don't forget, you can nominate the Sports Spotlight person, team, athlete, coach of the week here. It's the Carpet City Sports Spotlight person, athlete, coach of the week. All you got to do is head to our website, sportstalk1051.com, and you'll be able to click on the Nation tab over there, and you can nominate it. We've gotten a couple of them. We got to put them in the mail, though, to those schools, though, but Shy High Volleyball, Eau Claire North was last week's. We'll announce the winner for this week's tomorrow morning for the Sports Spotlight Award. But if you want to put in a nomination for anybody or a team or anything like that, you can do so by visiting our website, sportstalk1051.com. And again, clicking on that Nation tab over there. Plenty of good local teams or athletes or coaches worthy of that, and giving them a little more recognition that way. So big thanks to Carpet City Flooring Center for helping us out over there too. So what we got? I got the Memorial schedule in here. Who do they play? Well, what date is it? Hudson. Ooh, that's gonna be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
At Hudson there. So you've been have you checked out any of the high school football games
Never
yet?
haven't been
Not
to
yet?
a game yet. No,
Not yet.
which is
So-
I went to some freshman games.
Yeah.
With one of our colleagues.
Oh,
here.
you went to his game. That's why I got a schedule in here, because he
Yeah.
dropped that off.
Yeah,
So you went to that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's fun to watch the kids learn the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right. Well, and I think it's this week too, and Brandon will be able to break it down too. But we're going to be talking already clinching postseason spots.
Wow, already?
Yeah. Think about that.
How's Rice Lake doing in the Middle Border Conference?
I'll have to. I don't know off the top.
I think that's where they're at, isn't it? They're down that area with the Duran, Mondovi, some of those schools. Isn't that where they put Rice Lake this year?
Yep, middle border over there. So
Yeah, so I haven't followed that, but I know
they're 4-1. It looks like, according to Max Preps, they
Okay.
fell to Baldwin Woodville in OT.
well, that's
last
it.
week.
Good.
So
Good competitive conference.
What was it like last week, by the way, for when you were at the Badger game? What was the environment like compared to the week prior to what that was?
Oh, they're
It's-
Badger fans. They're Badger fans. They
Yeah.
forget last week. They're there to cheer on and
66-7 over.
and you could see from the beginning and there were some empty seats in the stadium. I don't think there were a lot of folks that thought it was going to be a very competitive game, and it wasn't. But hopefully the Badgers got a few things they could work out against, not against their own players in practice. But it wasn't a very competitive game. I don't think you could. You can't watch the film and take a lot away. But
That's what I was like. The first 3 weeks, do we really know what this Badger football team is yet?
No, I don't think so.
No. Because, you get the Washington State, it's like, geez. And then, you put up 66 against New Mexico. It's like, okay, what? I don't know how to gauge it. Like, what can we take away?
That's the only thing I can take away is the fact that, the offensive line has got to get better. Even against New Mexico, they had a couple of penalties. Against Washington State, they had, I think, about 100 yards in penalties. The offensive line, you could say, kind of cost them the game against Washington State. It really did. And, a couple other plays that shouldn't have been. Guy makes an interception, then he fumbles it because he wants to be a hero running it back. And, but I agree with you. I don't think I know or we know what this team's capabilities are. Now, can this offensive line all of a sudden stand up and make a difference? I hope so. I'm not real confident that they can, especially against Ohio State. But I don't know. Based on what I've seen in the first 3 weeks, I'm not confident going to Ohio this weekend at all.
No. Would that be a top 10, top 5 if Wisconsin gets the victory, top 5, top 10 moment in Badger football? Like biggest upsets and that sort of. We've
well, at Ohio State, absolutely, yeah. Because Ohio State, their focus is not so much the Big Ten. Their focus is on playing in the playoffs because they assume they're going to win their games in the Big Ten. Michigan is the game they focus on at the end of the year, and Penn State will be a game. I don't know how much of a game it will be, but those are the ones they're focusing on. This is just who comes in and gets nailed by us this Saturday? Well, Wisconsin's coming to the Horseshoe.
Right.
I think that's how they look at it. at least I know that's how their fans look at it. The coaches will never admit to that sort of thing, but those coaches know when you've got a better team than the other team, and it's just performing.
Yeah. I just saw this a couple of nuggets here before we move on. Remember Kevin King?
Yeah.
Apparently he's taking the year off, and then he'll come back next year. He's skipping the 2022 season.
In other words, nobody
Well,
nobody wants him.
that was my first thought, but he's skipping this season in an attempt to get healthy as he remains unsigned heading into week 3. Apparently he did turn down contract offers in order to stay committed to his plan of returning to full health after dealing with a concussion, COVID-19, hip, knee, and shoulder injuries all last year.
So he came in with a bad back when they
Shoulder
drafted him, or
back,
bad
yeah.
shoulder when he came in from the draft. And they drafted an injured player, basically way too high.
Mm-hmm.
I wish him well. I hope that's his chosen profession. So I hope he can come back and play for somebody.
And I know we mentioned Favre a little bit earlier, but apparently there's now, I guess, more stuff coming down that it's not looking good for Brett Favre, according to some of this stuff. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot of what this is, or the meanings of all that. But apparently, some people are coming to agreement with plea deals that could turn a major turn that could spell trouble for Brett Favre. So I don't know. I'm assuming plea deals to testify against him.
I suppose either testify or turn over state's evidence against Brett Favre, or what the deal is. I don't know. It'll be interesting to follow it, because it's not a good story.
No, it's not. So, but just saw that popped up on my wire here too. So, and just because I know we were talking about, it's kind of been quiet and that sort of thing, but we'll see.
Well, when they get there, it's kind of like making the big announcement yesterday against President Trump. He's in a lot of trouble, and I suppose when they get all their investigating done, they'll go to the microphone and say the same, or say their charges, whatever they may be, against Brett Favre, and what the implications are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but okay, moving on. So Brewers have they start their series to the on the road, last road series to the Reds. 13 games, I believe, is left, if my math is correct. The schedule's folded, so I can't count right there. But last road trip against the Reds. We've got the Phillies taking on the Braves this weekend. If the Brewers don't take 3 out of 4, and the Braves, let's say, don't take 3 out of 4, is it done for the Brewers?
I think so.
Receiver defer, I guess.
They've just got to realize that they've got to win. I mean, I don't know.
12 games left, excuse me.
I don't know what their attitude is in the locker room and how they're going after this, and whatever the case may be. But bottom line is, you got to win. If you don't win 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4, against Cincinnati, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. I mean, Cincinnati's not good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what you got to. And the Brewers, that's been their downfall. Have been these teams that aren't good. Pittsburgh all of a sudden rose up and became a Brewer slayer. Cincinnati, even the Cubs. I mean, those teams aren't good, and they don't have a very good record against those teams if they want to be in the playoffs. And that's where they've gotten hurt, right within their own division.
Looking at because you're going to have to do some scoreboard watching this weekend.
Oh yeah.
I know the Padres, they've won their last 5 in a row, and they've got the Cardinals one more today before the Rockies there, but just kind of focusing on, because the Braves still have something to play. I mean, they're in a battle with the Mets right now. So you're looking at it. I'm kind of looking at some of the pitching matchups, and you got Fried going for Atlanta, or okay. Wright for Atlanta's on Saturday, who's 19-5. So yeah, it's one of those that obviously paying attention to the Brewers, but I think that Braves and Phillies series, if the Brewers had a chance to make up some ground and get this thing close, and maybe come through the weekend where it's, I don't know, tied, it's got to be this weekend.
Oh, there's no question about that. I mean, St. Louis is coming back down to earth after the hot streak they were on, and the Brewers just completely fell flat on their face with no emotion in their game and didn't hit. And, if they could have, stayed halfway close to the Cardinals, and I think I heard the Cardinals been shut out the last 3 games that they've been playing against the Padres. And I saw Hader had to save in a 1-0 win last night. But if they could have stayed close, but it's over in the division. The Cardinals aren't going to lose that lead in the division. But the Brewers, if they don't make the playoffs, all they got to do is look in their own division and see why.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think the Brewers, if I asked you to make a prediction, are they going to get 3 out of 4? Woodruff tonight, TBD tomorrow, Burns Saturday, and then TBD on Sunday.
I'm going to say yes, because I think their back is to the wall, and I think they know what they've got to do.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't afford not to go up there swinging.
Do the Braves take 3 out of 4?
Oh,
Against Philly?
No, I'll say they're going to split.
Okay. So that would still move up the Brewers by a game, so they'd be 1.5 back in the final couple weeks.
That's still doable.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to do the math in my head here a little bit.
But it's still doable, but the Brewers, again, can't be up and down. Shut out one game, score 6-8 runs the next game. You got to put runs on the board. And I think that puts, and we've said this before, this puts pressure on Counsell. He's got to manage every game differently. You can't manage. This is my style of managing. Okay, but it doesn't work now. Your back is to the wall. Now your style of managing hasn't worked to the point where they're comfortably in the playoffs. You're not in the playoffs right now. So you got to do some things to, maybe manufacture some wins. And that's one thing I don't think he's real good at. And so if he can do that, help this team win a little bit more, then I think they've still got a shot, a game and a half away. It's and with 12 games left, they've got a shot.
Yeah, so we'll see, huh?
Yeah,
we'll see. But they got to take at least 3 out of 4.
Oh, there's no
they've
question
got to
about
at
that.
least take 3 out of 4 this weekend.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can't
anything short of that.
No.
But it's a real decent chance. I mean, next week they got 2 more games against the Cardinals. Cardinals could just end it next week. All their hopes.
Yeah. Well, they could.
They could.
But the Cardinals are in a downturn right now from, that streak that they went on that played so well and took the lead and built the lead, but they're not playing all that well, and the Brewers they're not taking advantage of it.
No. Oh, they ain't gonna catch up to the Cardinals.
No, I know that. I know they're not going to catch up to the Cardinals, but still, you can't win the World Series if you don't get in the playoffs.
We needed the Cardinals to beat the Padres, and they're not doing that for us.
No, that's what I mean. They've lost 3 in a row.
Come on, Cardinals. What's wrong with you for crying out loud?
Yeah, they must be using the Brewers' bats because they haven't scored any runs.
Just ridiculous. Let's take a quick phone call here this morning. Good morning. Who are we chatting with? Doing well, Richie. How are you doing? Yeah, I never thought of that either. Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, and he did it in style too.
Yeah, the college kid.
I think you're exactly right. And Rich, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking back about being there at that game on Sunday where he hit 58 and 59. And the whole Yankee and this is a real microcosm of the season. I know when they play Boston and some of their rivals, it might be a little different. But that Yankee team, what I saw, is a class act. I mean, you never saw, guys hitting home runs, and they hit a couple of home runs against the Brewers. I mean, they're not running around the bases trying to draw attention to themselves. They hit the home run, they put their head down, they ran around the base, they went back into the dugout. And I mean, you know, yeah, and for Willie Adames to do that at home, that's one thing. On the road, maybe you're a little more humble, so to speak. But the Yankees, I got to say, the Yankees, what I saw, they're a class act.
Are we saying we like the Yankees?
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying I like the Yankees, but I respect the Yankees. Let's face it. I mean, they've got some advantages being in the market they're in, but also I respect, and I think Aaron Judge is the leader of that team, and I think the rest of them kind of follow his lead. Richie, let me ask you this: how much money do you think Aaron Judge has added to his contract by playing this year without that contract instead of signing one? How much money do you think he's made himself? Think he's added $100 million to what they offered him? That was saved? Oh. Hit by pitch.
Wow.
Wow. Everybody's got to have a claim to fame, and I guess that's what he wants his Mets claim to fame to be this year.
Richie, good stuff, man. Appreciate the phone call this morning, bud. You too. There you go. Back to the Aaron Judge thing. I was trying to think off the top of my head. Has there been another player who has gone into their final year and bet on themselves and has superseded that bet? Like we would talk about the franchise tag or like Roquan Smith for the Bears this year. He's all right. I'm just gonna play it out. See what happens. I can't think of another player off the top of my head who came in. It's going to be a free agent next year and has just skyrocketed his value because he's setting records. I can't think of another one.
I can't think of one either.
Off the top of my head. I mean, Lamar Jackson maybe could do it this year, depending on what the Ravens all do. But, because how many times have we seen players get contracts because of, a few games? Joe Flacco helping win the Super Bowl for Baltimore, and he gets a big deal and, that sort of stuff. But I can't think of another player off the top of my head. Maybe like Jeremy Lin, remember that hot minute for basketball, but that was just a nowhere guy coming out of nowhere. And, but the dude, he could have signed a contract earlier and made a lot of money. He's like, no, I think I'm worth more. And then he goes out and proves that he's going to set records and 62 dingers probably. And,
he is making himself a lot of money, but I can't think of anyone either that has turned down a huge contract. And I don't know why he thinks, and when you get to that much money, it's hard for the average person to realize, isn't that enough? But he looked around and saw that there's still more out there. Why shouldn't I get it versus somebody else? And you can't argue that thinking, and he's going to get it.
Yeah, whether it's by the Yankees or not.
Yeah, well, it'll be by the Yankees.
Gotta be, right? I mean, there's no way they can
there's no way.
I would be nervous, handing a 10, 12-year deal to a 30-year-old, but I mean, it's worth it for those first couple of years, isn't it? At that point, those first few years of the contract.
Well, it's not like the Yankees paying them that much money is going to hamstring them,
right?
Like it would the Brewers or Cincinnati or a lot of other teams.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot more money than that. I mean, they've got $1 billion contract for their media. And they've got revenue streams that the other teams don't have. And it's not going to break the Yankees at all. It may slow them down a little bit, but, that's why the Brewers have to be so careful with the contracts they give to these guys. And all the other teams do as well, outside of the Dodgers and obviously the Angels give away a lot of money. San Diego, they paid out a lot of money. I never did hear what Soto's contract is all about.
He hasn't signed one yet.
Yeah, I was okay. So he's going to try and sign one. But, did the Brewers make a mistake by not trading for him? Trading Hader to him, to Washington, and getting him for the rest of the year? What kind of a difference would he make?
Mm-hmm.
But because, it's rent a player. And I don't know if San Diego's intent on signing him. They got Tatis and they've got Machado. How much money can they spend? And Hader going out there.
Yeah.
Is he just a rent a player? Does he think San Diego's going to give him a great, big, huge contract? I mean, how deep is the well in San Diego? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. 31 years old, Aaron Judge will be.
Yeah.
He's got a 14.8 WAR, though. I think it's just so awkward, too. He's a center fielder. He's a 6'7" center fielder out there.
I'll tell you one thing. He made a couple plays the other day against the Brewers were nice plays in center field. A couple balls I didn't think he was going to get to, and he got to them.
And that's the other, thing, too. Looking at his age, how many teams would have said, no, you're not playing center. We're going to convert you maybe to, first base or stick you at DH. And I know they got Stanton and all that, too. Yeah. But you don't really see a big guy like that playing center at his age either.
No, and who knows, right field, is that the calling for him in the future?
Mm-hmm. That's where he started off, was in right field. But, yeah, we'll see. I'm sure as he gets older, there'll be more talk about converting him to, DH probably, and first base maybe a little bit too, but we'll see.
I think he's kind of player that wants to be in the field.
I agree.
And it's different as far as the feel of the game. You're sitting in the dugout and all of a sudden, whoops, I got to bat this inning, versus coming off the field and being a player. It's every game is different. As far as I know, when I play golf, I would much rather carry my bag than ride in a cart. As far as I know, I can play better if I'm carrying my bag versus riding in a cart.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it is. And I think these guys feel they can hit better if they're playing in the field.
I appreciate you comparing yourself to Aaron Judge.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. But you look at some of these guys, like some of these designated hitters, that was their job.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Edgar Martinez out in Seattle got to the Hall of Fame as a DH.
David Ortiz
is going to get there, although he did play first base.
He's in there.
Yeah, and but at the end, they were focused on that. I don't think Aaron Judge, if the Yankees said, we'll give you this, you're going to be DH, I don't think he'd go for that at all.
Yeah. Remember, too, Albert Pujols, he started off playing the outfield in his early career, outfield and third base.
Yep. And then he went to first base, and I think every once in a while he does put a glove on just to go out and play first base. They'd never put him at third base anymore, but I hope he gets 700.
I'm just kind of looking at the games that he played in the field. He did play one inning at third base for the Angels in 2021. think it was probably mop-up duty there. But he did have 2 innings logged in at shortstop in 20. Where did it go? It was early in his 2002 for the Cardinals there. Again, probably mop-up kind of duty there, but
yeah, they're never going to mistake him for Ozzie Smith at shortstop in St. Louis. That's for sure.
Nope. All right, we got to take our final break here. So last call for any shout-outs. You can hit us up with some text, some tweets, or Facebook. We'll cover some bases after these quick words. All right, covering some bases here. Let's catch up on a couple of tweets here. We were talking about the Aaron Judge contract. Somebody mentioned Kirk Cousins as one. That was the whole. I'm assuming they're talking about the Washington franchise tagging him every year because they don't want to give him a good deal. And then the franchise tags are weird in the NFL because if you franchise tag a guy for a third time, I mean, good luck paying the rest of your team. It's built that way, so you
Mhm.
can't franchise tag somebody. So, like after that second time they franchise tagged him, we knew he wasn't going to be back in Washington. So, I'm not. Big Worm says Jokic, 46 pick in a draft, turned down a contract extension. Now he's worth a lot of money. Did he turn? I mean, he just signed a 5-year supermax. So, did he turn one down? I don't know if he turned one down earlier off the top of my head or not, but couldn't tell you that. But yeah, he did sign that supermax in the early parts of the summer. Highest paid player.
Well, that's one thing. You sign a supermax. There's a top dollar on that.
Mm-hmm.
But in baseball, there's no top dollar.
Mm-hmm.
You get you get what you can make. Those supermax contracts in basketball are worth a lot of money. There's no question about it. But I mean, this guy, I don't know. Is he going to have a number with 5 in front of it?
Yeah, and I found an article in 18. Jokic did sign a 5-year extension, and the NBA contracts are weird too. Where
That's what I mean.
After
Yeah,
a couple years, there's a max, and then you can get to the super max. You got the Larry Bird rights, everything factored in there. I think when we were talking about the Judge thing, we're focusing on a guy like Juan Soto turned down a huge contract too, betting on himself. Aaron Judge could have signed a deal already with the Yankees. No, I'll bet on myself, and then he might have just increased his value. Whereas Juan Soto, is he increasing his value? You still get paid a lot.
That's what I was going to say. What's Juan Soto done for his value? I mean, he's one of the greatest young hitters in baseball, but you got to question. I don't know. I mean, you got to question all these contracts. That's just so much money to give to a person in a team sport because you don't do this alone.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have other team members to help you along, but you got to be the leader. And Judge is the leader of this Yankee team. There's no question about that. Because Derek Cole pitched Sunday, and the Brewers hit him hard. Brewers hit a lot of balls to the warning track, to the fence. I mean, if that game could have been turned around in a big hurry, but the Brewers didn't get the ball out of the park or far enough away. Because, like I said, Judge made a couple of really nice plays in center field, nice plays in left field, right field. They hit him hard.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Coles is a great pitcher, but Aaron Judge is the leader of that team. And I think, is this contract going to start with a 5? Is it going to start with a 6? I don't think it's going to start with a 4. I think it's going to be 500, 600 million. I just don't see where he's going to sign for any less than that. Do you?
Yeah. Because Soto rejected a $440 million offer. I'm going to see because you could get in this whole thing. Who's got the highest per year? Who's got the highest total? Right? I mean, there's that stuff. But
yeah, deferred money and all this other stuff.
Mike Trout's got $426.5 million right now. Mookie Betts $365. Francisco Lindor's got $341. Tatis Jr. signed that $340 million one. Bryce Harper had $330. I think you're gonna if Soto turned down $440 million,
then Judge is gonna be way over 500.
This is gonna be nuts.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to fathom.
And Soto's still gonna get a huge payday too whenever his deal comes up.
But from who?
Yeah,
is it going to be like we talked earlier with Fernando Tatis and Machado?
Well, maybe the Red Sox will finally start getting back into the bidding games or something.
That's possible too.
Never know.
Because I don't think the Dodgers, as much money as they have, I don't think the Dodgers can take him on unless they move an awful lot.
Texas spent a lot of money last year. I don't know how much more they would have left too.
I don't know.
All right, that's going to do it for us. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
You bet. Go Bucky, go Bucky, go Pack.
We'll be back tomorrow making our picks. Talk to you then.